Thank you very much, Dr. Alex Vines. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Sorry. You'll appreciate that I have been traveling, so morning and evening is quite a challenge. Let me take this very early opportunity to thank the management of Chatham House for providing me with this platform to engage this think tank and people in this global space on matters to do with the subject that you have asked me to speak on. Elections in Kenya, challenges and opportunities for shared prosperity. I was here about 2.5 years, 3 years and a few months and a bit. And then I discussed about what I saw Kenya, a generally optimistic view of what I thought about our country. And in the context of our region, the challenges that we face in that part of the world. We live in a neighborhood that has many challenges, but in that context, Kenya still stands out as the place that can provide the necessary stability and the anchor for the engagement of our region with the rest of the world. On 9th of August this year, the people of Kenya will go to polls and we will have an election. A lot has been said about that election. I want to commit on this platform that we will work and deploy every resource in that's it within our ability to make sure that that election is free, is fair, and is peaceful. We have confidence in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission that they can deliver a credible election if they are properly resourced, they are supported both by government and our development partners and friends, as has been the tradition of support to IEBC. That election is a decisive election. I may also call it a transition election, because in it we have either to transit into a prosperous Kenya, or we could regress into something else. There are largely, from where I stand, there are 3 propositions on the ballot this year. Number 1 is our democracy and constitutionalism. That's on the ballot this year. On our side, we believe that the way to the future is to consolidate our democracy by completing the implementation of our 2010 Constitution that is largely a very progressive constitution that provides for checks and balances, that separates the judiciary from the executive, from the legislature, and provides a system of checks and balances, builds in accountability, ensures that we have shared prosperity with our robust county system of government and our county governments that have become a very big celebration by the people of Kenya of that shared prosperity. On the other side of the divide, of course, we have our competitors who now have doubts about our 2010 Constitution. They have proposed a raft of amendments in the region of 72 different amendments in an exercise called the BBI process. And they want to bring back an imperial presidency. They want more power given to the president. They want the president to have power over the judiciary. They want the president to appoint an entity called ombudsman that seeks to supervise and superintend the judiciary. They want the president to go back to appointing ministers from parliament, which in our opinion undermines the oversight responsibility of parliament. If you inject members of the executive into parliament, we go back straight where we were before the new constitution. So on one side, we think we should be able to consolidate our democracy and complete the implementation of the new constitution. On the other side, they want to amend the constitution and take us back where we came from 30 years ago. The second item on the ballot is our political culture. We believe that our focus should be building institutions, institutionalizing our governance, institutionalizing our politics, institutionalizing our accountability, and institutionalizing all the oversight responsibilities and our progress. What do I mean by this? On one side, we believe we must build our politics around political parties. We've painstakingly been part of building national political parties. I was a member of KANU when KANU was a national political party. I was a member of ODM when we built it as a national political party. I participated in building Jubilee as a national political party. Today, we have built the largest, most popular political party, the United Democratic Alliance, and we have built the largest, most popular political formation with our partners in ANC and partners in Fort Kenya under the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. On the other side, many believe that politics should be built around personalities and personality outfits. The question I often am asked is, how will you succeed in your presidential campaign unless you have the support of Uhuru Kenyatta or the next guy or the next guy, oblivious of the fact that we have built the largest political party to many people. And that's the culture we need to deal with, is that the institution of a political party, they don't see the value of it, they see the personalities. And that's why the contest in this election is, on one side, we have the team that I belong to, the team that I lead. We believe that this contest should be framed around a national political party and a national political movement rather than on personalities and individuals. Number one, we believe that we should build our politics around an accountable executive and an accountable government with clear demarcations of the opposition and the government. Our competitors on the other side seem to have blurred lines between what is government and what is the opposition. The result which you see today in Kenya, there is no government and there is no opposition. Today in Kenya, you have a mongrel of a governance system. You don't know whether it is the government that is in the opposition or the opposition is the one that is in government. Today, the leader of the opposition is a project of the system and the deep state of government. And unfortunately, the leader of what is supposed to be the ruling party is actually a squatter, or is it a refugee in the opposition party. So we have quite a situation. And it's because of that that we believe we must not build our politics around individuals. We must build our politics around institutions. If we had built our even engagements around political parties, we wouldn't have ended in the situation that Kenya is in today, where we have opposition members chairing government committees. We have the leader of government being the foremost supporter of the leader of opposition. The third issue on that subject of political culture and building institutions. Today, anywhere in Kenya, people will tell you the fight, apart from the oversight responsibility of the opposition over government being compromised because of the lack of institutionalization of our governance. Today, anybody in Kenya will tell you the fight against corruption is laced largely with political persuasion. If you have challenges of having stolen from the public, you only need to be a friend. You only need to profess that you support the handshake and you support the BBI, and you will have no consequences. It is our belief that accountability should be built and institutionalized. That's why we believe that the very first thing we must do in completing the implementation of the Constitution is to operationalize what the Constitution provides for, the judiciary fund. To give the judiciary the capacity, the financial independence to be able to deploy their full potential in discharging their constitutional mandate of adjudicating on disputes, dealing with matters of accountability, dealing with matters of corruption, so that corruption cases do not take 10 years because the judiciary is undercapacitated because they do not have the resources to hire the personnel, the magistrates, the judges, the software, the hardware, to be able to discharge their responsibility. At the very first instance, it's our commitment that we must operationalize the judiciary fund and get the judiciary to do independently what they are supposed to do. The second item is the entire criminal justice system, from the DCI to the Inspector General and all the investigative authorities in between, must also be given what the Constitution says their financial independence. Today, the IG, the Inspector General, the DCI, they run independent offices, but they depend on the office of the President for their finances. They do not have financial independence. There is a common saying, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So, if somebody else is paying, that's how they decide who you go after and who you don't go after. That's how they decide if you are on this side of the political divide, there are no resources to prosecute. And if you are on this other side of the divide, there are resources to prosecute. We believe the criminal justice system should be truly independent by not just having constitutional independence, but having financial independence to discharge their responsibility. Institutions, institutionalizing the fight against corruption, institutionalizing accountability, institutionalizing oversight. That way, we will be on the trajectory of getting Kenya where we want. So, what's on the ballot? Those of us who believe we should institutionalize our politics along political party lines, institutionalize accountability by having clear separation between the opposition and government, institutionalizing the fight or accountability by making sure that the judiciary is independent, the institution of the criminal justice system is independent, not just by constitution, but financial and operational independence as well. Rather than build this around personalities who then become subjective and who then become biased, and we end up in the place we should not be. Finally, in the ballot, we have driven the economy right to the heart of this contest. And we are looking at democratizing the economy of Kenya. And that is why, with our partners in ANC and Ford Kenya, we have built an economic model around this election that gives us opportunity to expand and make sure that our economic model is inclusive. Make sure that the millions of our citizens who are today locked out of the economic cycle because they have no jobs, 4 million of our young people out of school, out of college, out of university, have no jobs, and it's not going to be business as usual. How are we going to do it differently? We're going to deliberately, and I could give examples later, deliberately invest in areas that are labor intensive, that create jobs, so that we can deal with the challenge of unemployment and create inclusivity. Number two, 80% of all our business is in the space of micro, small, and medium enterprise. We believe to create economic inclusion, this category who suffer three challenges. They do not have legislation to protect their business. They have challenges in the environment in which they operate. And when I say in the environment in which they operate, even huge corporates in Kenya will tell you they have a wall of licenses, 10 licenses, 15 licenses that they have to suffer before they can get their business up and running. And finally, and this is especially for the micro and small enterprises, is the whole challenge of access to credit. It is really the elephant in that space. Let me give you an example. Because of the challenge of access to credit, we have a huge problem of predatory lenders. And because of predatory lenders, today, 15 million Kenyans are blacklisted on Credit Reference Bureau. 15 million Kenyans blacklisted is actually half our working population. That tells you there is a serious problem of access to credit. Many of these micro enterprises, research shows that many of them pay as high as 1,000% per year to access credit. Some 2,000%. While corporates access credit at 10%, the micro and small enterprises access credit all the way to 1,000%. It's reasonably. These are enterprises that end up making $1, $2, maybe $3 on a good day. And with just access to credit, reasonable credit, affordable credit, you can actually increase their income from $2, $3 to $6, $7. You can double their income just by making sure that we access credit. It's a challenge that we have. It's a challenge we must deal with. Inclusivity again. And this is about the economy. And finally, we have to do something about the biggest sector that drives our economy. 25% of our GDP is contributed to by agriculture. 50% of our GDP, agriculture, plus all the linkages. So it's not possible to discuss the economy of our country without discussing agriculture. And agricultural transformation, right from interventions in seeds, interventions in fertilizer, interventions in market, interventions, getting rid of cartels, dealing with brokers, making sure that we have clear value chains. And if I give you an example, we are, for example, the largest producer of milk in the continent. We produce 5 billion liters of milk. But if you go to see our productivity, it's anywhere between 3 liters or 3 kilos and 4 kilos per cow. Same cow, same farmer, with a little bit of input on a different feed. You can actually take the same cow, same farmer, to 15 liters, 20 liters. You can triple, maybe quadruple their productivity. And we could turn around the fortunes of many in that space of agriculture. We import 180 billion shillings worth of food items into Kenya, when we have a huge farming community that can actually produce. 12 million households in Kenya are in the category that majority end up being net importers of food, yet they are farmers. We need to build the capacity, increase the productivity of these people who are already in the farms, so that they can produce enough for them to eat. And with enhanced productivity, they can begin to help us manage the 180 billion import bill by supplying some of it. So that's really the trajectory I would want us to look at. So we have pushed this whole economic discussion into the equation. Our friends on the other side, maybe they will explain to you what I have had them talk about is the old stories, the things that haven't made a difference in Kenya. And so I consider that, as I conclude, I consider that the people of Kenya have a choice that cannot be clearer. And it will determine whether we go forward as a stable, progressive, democratic, constitutional country, or we regress to what we see part of the world going. Maybe we see what's going on in Ukraine, that people are beginning to roll back democracy, go back to more authoritarianism and that kind of thing. And the people of Kenya, in my opinion, their choices are very clear. They will choose wisely, and they will choose the next government that they know can deliver prosperity going into the future and overcome their challenges. Thank you very much.
So, for those of you on Zoom, just a reminder, that was His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, Deputy President of Kenya, discussing the opportunities and the outlook for change arising from August's elections that are coming up in Kenya, and sharing his vision of a bottom-up economic model for Kenya's long-term prosperity. Just a reminder to everybody in this room that this event is the first of a series of events that we're organising at Chatham House on Kenya's 2022 elections and political developments. And next week we will be advertising shortly. Raila Odinga will be speaking here also. So, if you want to ask questions, we're going to do this two ways. One is there's roving microphones in the room, and I'll start off that way. But we're also, via Zoom, receiving questions from all over the world. So if you want to ask a question and you're on Zoom, please use your Q&A box function to indicate that. And I will also see if I can invite some of those who are on Zoom to ask their questions verbally, but I'll also summarize some of those that are coming in. So again, we'll take 3 questions now from the hall, and the lady in the far left there, you madam, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you.
Deputy President, we'll take questions in 3s, so if you just take down...
Your Excellency, Deputy President of Kenya, distinguished guests, Dr. Alex, my fellow Kenyans, first I say karibuni to our guests, and jambo. So, Mr. Deputy President, I've got 2 questions. First of all, let me just say, my name is Rosemary Adigor, and I'm the PR and Marketing Director for Azimio UK chapter. So I've got 2 questions for you. First, when you formed the government with His Excellency President Kenyatta, he treated you more like a principal. And in that case, you were given some of the most powerful dockets that, as any deputy president, we've never seen that sort of. So that was generosity from his part. But you also played because you also brought the number with you. So it was like this. So what I want to ask is, what are you going to do different, having seen the level of corruption, unprecedented corruption that engulfed our country to an extent whereby people can't even afford to buy milk, people can't even afford to buy even just oil, and yet we have people who they are just rolling in lots of money. They are just, they can have a car from Monday to Sunday, and Kenyans are starving.
Second question, please, because we've got lots and lots of questions. Please.
So I just asked you, what are you going to do different to Kenyans? Second question, should you not win the election, are you going to concede defeat and be an advocate for peace in our country? Because we know the story and we are all eyes open. We are watching.
Thank you.
So thank you. And lastly, I just
No, two. The lady in the middle here, please. We'll go for 3 plus 2.
Excellency, Deputy President, thank you for sharing with us your convictions. I am Nashwat Megwar, Head of Political Practice at Concerto Global Public Affairs. I have 2 questions. The first one is a more political one. As we all know, on 9 August, there are many risks for a fair election. So on which tools do you rely to ensure a fair, transparent and inclusive election, and how can the international community support you this way? The second question is more economic. How can the international investors plug to your bottom-up platform vision to create employment and value in Kenya, and how can they become, as you say, true hustlers for Kenya?
Thank you very much. And there was one gentleman there, you sir. One question, please, because I want to try and get a diverse number of questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guest, His Excellency, my name is Lashan Lethbridge, and my question for you today actually is just, the one. Kenya's shared prosperity in the region of East Africa can only happen if Kenya protects its borders, and I'd actually like to hear your thoughts on the internal security of Kenya and its armed forces, and what your thoughts are to have a prosperous Kenya and a safe Kenya.
Right, thank you very much. Yes, I have been Deputy President for 9 years. I don't know which dockets were given to me, because when President Uhuru Kenyatta formed government after the election, we've always had one president. We've never had 2. And the responsibility over government has never been shared between Uhuru Kenyatta and myself. Our first term, we ran a coalition government, but I can tell you there was no single opportunity where my party held a PG outside President Uhuru's party. We had one parliamentary group, one government, one program, and it was all clear. There were no dockets that were given to me. I didn't appoint no minister anywhere. Everybody was appointed by the President of Kenya. And the difference, maybe you could ask, is between our first term and our second term. In our first term, granted, I played my role as Deputy President. The President assigned me many responsibilities, which I discharged with distinction from where I sit. And that is why, in our first term, we rolled out our plan to build the standard gauge railway. We have built 700 kilometers. I was part and parcel of the entire delivery plan. We set out to build 10,000 kilometers of tarmac road in Kenya. By June this year, in 3 months or so, we will have actually done 11,000 kilometers. I sat long hours with officials in government to design how that was going to happen. Same case to our TVET program. Same case to all the other programs that we delivered on our first term. And to demonstrate our success, we were re-elected in our second term with twice the margin we had been elected in 2013, clearly demonstrating that the people of Kenya were happy with our delivery. Unfortunately, in our second term, because of the political dynamics that came into play. The president told me that he wanted to do things differently. And he didn't want what had become normal in Kenya, that this was Ruto. He wanted a Uhuru. And I had a discussion, a candid discussion with him. And when he told me that's what he wanted, and he wanted to run this government because he wanted his legacy alone as the 4th president of the Republic of Kenya, I was not fussy about it, because he decided that whatever I did in the first term to coordinate the government programs, work on assignments that would consolidate our plan, he decided that he wanted somebody else to do it. And I didn't complain. So Executive Order number 1 came into force, establishing a different arrangement in government. And I had no quarrel with it, because that's how the president wanted to deliver on his second term. Unfortunately, the people who the president maybe gave that responsibility failed him, because the whole Big Four plan fell apart. The housing plan never took off. The universal health coverage never took off. The whole space on agricultural transformation faltered, and we didn't see any of that plan. In fact, at some point, it forced the president to change the plan. So we went away from the original plan of Big Four. We ended up with another plan called BBI, changing the constitution, working on all the rest of it, which unfortunately again went up in smoke because it was purely unconstitutional. So how do I do things differently? If we had done things the way we had done in our first term, making sure there are clear lines between the opposition and government, so that government can be held to account, so that the opposition can play its role, so that instead of the opposition being lackeys and being brokers and being the ones organizing cartels in government and participating in corruption, they should be providing oversight. You're correct. You know, Kenya is in a worse place today. There is no oversight. The fellows who are supposed to provide oversight in the opposition are the ones driving the scandals, from KEMSA to all this. They are the ones participating in the troubles. Coming to my grand lady here, yes, there are people who are skeptical about whether we will have free, fair elections, and especially peaceful elections. The point of elections being violent for the last 3 elections has largely been the refusal by participants of the election to accept the outcome of the election. That has been the point of departure. I can say with a lot of confidence that the last 2 elections did not have tribal anglings. We largely ran 2 formations, one in NASA, one in Jubilee, that largely represented the face of Kenya on both sides. The only challenge that came is when our competitors refused to accept the outcome of the election, organized demonstrations, swore themselves in, did all manner of things, and drove the country into violence. The undertaking I give as a candidate, and I have done it publicly, is that William Ruto will accept the outcome of the election whichever way it goes. And I want all the other candidates to make the same commitment. They have not made the same commitment. They are dodgy about whether they will accept the outcome of this election. In fact, many on that side, it's in the public domain, have said they will rig the election, right? Many on that side have said, to those who care, even if William Ruto wins this election, Uhuru Kenyatta will not hand over power to him. They've said that in public, right? So, what we need is those of us as Kenyan leaders, the Kenyan public, and our friends in the international community to speak to all the candidates so that they can commit in public unequivocally that they will accept the outcome of this election. And I say so, especially the notorious ones who have never accepted the outcome of any election until they commit that if they lose this election, which is most likely going to be the case, that they will accept the outcome of the election. That way, we can guarantee peace after the election by making sure that all the participants do what I have done publicly. The gentleman has talked about the whole security situation. Part of my engagement let me reframe it first. Addressing ourselves to the inclusive economic model goes a long way in managing the security situation within our country, because many of times the contestations and the conflicts are around resource sharing. The sooner we address ourselves, increase the possibility of our pastoralists, make sure that we enable our pastoralists, enhance their productivity, enhance the productivity of our farming communities, build resilience, and make sure that we using the inclusive economic model, we carry everybody along. We will pacify the country within. And working with our development, with our international partners. And this is the discussion I was having with the State Department. And hopefully I will have that statement with the Minister for Defense and the Minister for Africa tomorrow here in the UK, is on how we can build on the partnership that exists at the moment to deal with violent extremism and to deal with the challenge of terrorism and to deal with the issues that are cross-border. How we can build that alliance around AMISOM, around the partnership we have to secure not just Kenya, but to secure the region so that we can make it available for investors and for partners to work with us in the progress of our country.
So I'm going to take some of the questions coming in from the continent and beyond. So be patient, please. We've got way too many questions here to deal with in the short time we have, but I will also overrun 10 minutes today, and I will overrun next week by 10 minutes also, so we have equity. So first of all, we've got Matano Wajere from Nairobi. If we can If you'd like to ask your question live, please go ahead. Mutoni. Are you there?
This is Navani. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Please go ahead. We can hear you.
This is Navani Wanyaki. I had several questions, but I will respect Alex and ask one. How do you reconcile your stance as a defender of the Constitution today with the fact that you mobilized the no vote in the constitutional referendum of 2010? Thank you.
Thank you, Matoni. We also have a program here called our Common Futures Conversations, and so our next two questions will be from young members of that project. For your information, Deputy President, the Common Futures Conversations project at Chatham House is a centenary initiative. We celebrated our centenary in 2019. That uses a bespoke online platform to provide space for young people in Africa and Europe to share perspectives on key global issues and engage in policy makers. We've received many questions from them, and we've chosen two to ask their questions live to you. So first of all, I'd like to invite Salome Nuzuku to ask the question. Salome, please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask this question. My name is Salome Nyanzuki. I am a founding member of the Common Futures Conversations community and also a Chatham House Youth Advisory panelist. Currently, I work at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Kenya. Excellency Deputy President, how will you tackle violence against women, safeguard women's rights, and promote gender equality if elected as the 5th President of Kenya? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then the second question is from Daniel Orogo. Daniel, please go ahead.
My name is Daniel Orogo. I am from Nairobi, Kenya. I am a member of the Chatham House Future Conversation program, and I am a panelist in the political governance. Your Excellency, the Deputy President, President Kenyatta has admitted severally in different platforms that there is nothing he can do to fight corruption. In fact, he has, in one occasion, thrown up his hands on air and says that there is nothing I can do. What do you want me to do? So as part of the presidency that you have been part of, I am interested to hear how you have seen in your campaigns that you do not really articulate about corruption. And I've heard your presentation about the fund, about institutionalization, but I admit that it is coming until late that you too have been dodgy about your agenda about fighting corruption. Is it by default? And if so, what is your pragmatic agenda in tackling corruption under your presidency if you will be elected? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. And the final question is from Uredo Makoji, which is one about tourism, I believe. Uredo, please go ahead. No? No, Uredo? Okay. Maybe you answer those questions.
Okay. Maybe let me start with Wanyeki. Let me tell Wanyeki, I am a Democrat. And when you are a Democrat, when you participate in a contest and you lose or win, you must accept the outcome of that contest. We went to a referendum. Yes, I mobilized the no vote because I had misgivings about sections, not the whole constitution, sections of that constitution. But when the people of Kenya decided that this is the constitution they want to have, as a Democrat, I had to accept that this now is our document. And I have every right to defend the current constitution because it is the constitution of the Republic of Kenya. And I am a Kenyan. It is a paradox that William Ruto, who had misgivings about sections of the Constitution, today is the defender of the Constitution against the people who pushed for the for the adoption of the Constitution, who today have become the biggest enemies of the same Constitution. They want to mutilate the same Constitution. And it has to take William Ruto to defend the Constitution of Kenya. Isn't it an irony? I think the people on the other side have more questions to answer than I do. Salome. I quite agree with Salome that we must be even. It is, we are the losers when we exclude women from the leadership of our nation. We have seen the value of women leaders. We have seen the contributions that they make. I have nominated no less than 4 women who have gone ahead to win elections because they've been given a chance to serve. So the more women, the more we provide opportunity for women to participate in leadership, the better for everybody. And that's why, even in the BBI process, I was against getting women from elected positions and making them nominees, of people, their friends, their relatives, their girlfriends, and all the rest of it. We must continuously provide a platform for women to be elected, for them to participate in elective politics. What are we doing? As a party, for every elective post, women pay for nominations half what men pay, as a rule. Number 2, we have made it absolutely clear. It is in the rules of our party that any violence is an automatic ticket to disqualification, especially violence against women. So violence is a no-go zone in our party. Violence against women has the severest consequences because we need to provide the opportunity for women to participate in the leadership of our nation. And going forward, we will support the affirmative action components that ensures that representation progressively until we have parity on matters to do with gender becomes our part of our equation until we get everybody the opportunity to be elected. David, I don't remember what David was asking. Can you remind me, David? Corruption. Yes, good. David was asking about the subject of corruption. And precisely, he's captured it very well, that there are so many people who pontificate about the fight against corruption. He said, President Kenyatta at some point said there was nothing he could do. I think that's a question he needs to direct to President Kenyatta. I would not throw up my arms that I have nothing to do. I have something to do. I need to get the criminal justice system to have its own financial independence, give them the capacity, the software, the human capital, the hardware to deal with corruption. I have said that I will roll out the judiciary fund to enable the judiciary to deal with accountability by providing them the human resource, the financial independence, the hardware and software to be able to adjudicate over matters and to deal with corruption cases expeditiously. Part of the lethargy around corruption is because it takes 10 years for a corruption case to be dealt with. Why? Because the whole investigation chain lethargic, and the judiciary do not have the capacity to fast track because they are constrained financially, because we haven't made it possible for them to have that capacity to deal with matters to do with corruption. I have been very clear in my mind as to why the fight against corruption is top on our priority by institutionalizing the fight against corruption. And it is not going to be something personal between me and my friends or my enemies. It is something between the criminals and the law. And in my very honest opinion, the rest of the people who are giving us long lectures about corruption, it is public knowledge in Kenya that there are people who learn a laundry to clean, corrupt people. If you are a corrupt person, you just need to pass through some office, pay some small stipend, and all of a sudden you are a clean person, you have no case to answer. I don't think that's what fighting corruption is all about. I don't think personalizing the fight against corruption so that it is me versus my enemies. That's not how to fight corruption. The way to fight corruption is to build the institutions that can independently deal with the challenge of corruption. One final thing. Willie Mutunga, our former Chief Justice, when he left office, he said the one thing that he was very happy about is that the telephone line never rang with a call from State House. In 4 years that he was Chief Justice, not one day, it never rang. And he was very proud of it, because that's how to keep the independence of institutions and to make sure that every institution does its job. And that's the essence of why the Constitution set up independent institutions to deal with weighty matters like oversight, accountability, and the whole criminal justice system.
Okay, too many hands for the time we've got. Sir, you've had your hand up almost all the way through, so that might be that it's your lucky moment because it's such a strong arm, but you have to be quick, yeah? Just one question sharp. Please go ahead.
Thank you. The Deputy President, my question to you, and this is to be fair to your competitors, it's not that they don't have an agenda. They have a very potent agenda. And to quote Abraham Lincoln, when America was at the point of dissolution, made a very great speech about a house divided against itself cannot stand. And as a man of faith, are you saying the unity call by your competitors is not worthy, seeing that Kenya has been divided since independence and the presidency has been circulating amongst two tribes, and the unity call and the marginalization of Kenyans is not an agenda? You're saying it's an old story? I really want to hear what you would respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The lady in the middle is just here. Yes, please. It's coming. Yep, your opportunity.
Thank you very much. My name is Karen Juguna. I am a midwife here in the UK. I trained and practice here. And my question is around health. Women's health and sexual reproductive health is an issue that's close to my heart. So I would like to ask, what are the plans for your government to tackle the high maternal mortality rate in Kenya? As you know, Africa as a whole, we contribute to 2/3 of maternal death in the world. And Kenya has its fair share. And also to ask what your opinion is in terms of legalizing abortion, which is one of the highest contributors of maternal mortality, and how we can evolve these conversations that are very emotive and also very driven by our faith. But as a profession, putting my professional hat on, I think that we need to have this discussion. Women need to have choice and also look at ways in how we can prevent women from dying from preventable causes. I know there's a lot of work that has been done by the Beyond Zero campaign, and it would be interesting to see how you can, what are your plans in terms of building on that and ensuring that no woman should die from preventable causes in childbirth.
Thank you very much. And then the last question, and here's the gentleman there with the blue checkered top. Yeah, you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name's Joseph Muchibi. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, welcome to London. First question.
One question, please. We've got no more time than that. One.
Okay. Painstakingly has been a dominant word that you've used in explaining your role in political parties. Again, painstakingly, you formed the UDA. Political parties, ideally, are supposed to be the forum upon which public participation is effected for real politics to make sense. I feel for you, and I really feel let down because of how Jubilee tumbled. Because I had a lot of hope, expectation that Kenya was going to have a binary political competition point where ideas were going to be about Jubilee and NASA. That down the drain, back to the tribal faithdoms that are being created. Now the question is, you are on record as having formed or led the United Republican Party, URP. You stand on that podium and acclaim yourself a Democrat. So there is the Republican and the Democrat you. So now, Republican basically comes from republic, we the people. Democrat is about majority, minority having their say, having their way. Very clear definitions. I like to be very clear with how I define my questions and how I frame my issues. Now, the problem in Kenya is, or as it is, the parties as we have them are operating at the behest of the political leaders, briefcase parties, owners of parties. People do not have, because recently in one of the NDCs, a list came and names were mentioned and the question was put to the floor, yes, nays, yes have their day, elections. Really? So now what commitment do we have from you that the party you're forming, the UDA, will be about elections and not people serving at your behest? Then, Mr. Your Excellency.
Sorry, that's enough. We don't have any more time. No way.
Yeah, okay.
Deputy President, I've just got a few clustered questions here, which I'm just going to summarize.
Well, I answer this one first, and then
okay, and then we'll have that bill. So go ahead, okay. And then we'll do one final.
We can meet later. My good brother, I didn't get his name at the back, says, am I dismissing the calls of unity? By no means, no, I'm not dismissing the calls of unity. I just want a bit of honesty and decency around those calls. When we went and we were told that we were having the handshake and it was about the unity of the country, it never turned out that it was a conspiracy. It wasn't genuine. You know, what happened? There was no unity. There was no building bridge. There was nothing. What happened? The handshake destroyed Jubilee, the ruling party. The handshake destroyed NASA, the opposition coalition. The handshake destroyed our Big Four plan. We couldn't implement it. The handshake destroyed government as we knew it. There was no government, there was no opposition. We ended up in a conundrum that nobody knew who was in the opposition. So, as we call for unity, is it the unity of the leaders or is it the unity of the people? It is way different, because there is a push by our competitors that the unity they understand is that if you have 3, 4, 5 leaders from their communities deciding to work together, that is unity, and every Kenyan should be satisfied with it. We hold a different view. We believe that the unity of the nation will be built around getting everybody included, the inclusion, the political inclusion. That's why we are building a national political movement. That's why we are building a national political party. That's why we and our competitors and our friends, we are building a national political formation. Economic inclusion. It's not that when a leader has occupied an office, he has occupied an office on behalf of his community. No. It is the economic inclusion that will create the unity of the nation. And to speak to you directly, if you want to tell us today that you want us to believe you, that you're genuine about the unity of the country, you know? And you have just come from your commitment. You said, this is my commitment, this is my word as a leader. You've walked away from it. In fact, I consider the so-called unity, you know, people running away from their commitments, people running away from what they have committed to other leaders. And if you can lie, if you can cheat, if you can betray a fellow leader, what will you do to the people of Kenya? Huh? So, I mean, really, we have to be honest about this thing, you know, and that's we must speak candidly as Kenyans to these issues. Let's not gloss over big words, or, you know, unity of the country, the second liberation, Mandela moment. No, this is all nonsense. I'm sorry. I mean, we really must speak to the real issues that bring people together. Health. Health is a very big issue. In fact, it's just that he squeezed time out of me. That's one thing that is at the heart of this conversation. We had a whole program on universal health. Unfortunately, we couldn't deal with it because we ended up chasing the BBI stories and the rest of it. So, what is our plan? We managed this year, in fact, three months ago, we managed to pass the changes to the law to make it possible for us to re-engineer the whole health space and make it possible for us to get to universal health coverage that carries with it your concerns on how women access health and how the citizens of Kenya access health. We now have the law that will give us a graduated contribution mechanism where people earning 6 figures like myself can pay more, and the people down the pyramid can pay less. And it is our considered view coming from experts and complete with actuarial expertise that it is possible under the new arrangement for us to double, if not triple, the resources that will be available to manage our health under our new health program as passed by the law in Parliament. That way, we can be able to deliver health in a much more predictable, quality health in a better way. And with it, you know, when we came into office in 2013, okay, I remember I think it was in 2015, we then said that government of Kenya will pay through National Hospital Insurance Fund for every mother who gives birth. Many women avoided going to hospital because they could not afford, but we made it possible that every child must be born with health professionals in place. And that's why significantly we have reduced maternal deaths. With our universal health coverage properly rearranged, that will scale up those interventions. On matters to do with abortion, the law is very clear in Kenya until it is changed that if the health or the well-being or the survival of the mother is in jeopardy, doctors are legally given the permission to save the life of the mother. So that the provision on where life is in danger is already captured by our law. Maybe then, unless you're talking about something much more progressive, then that's another discussion. Kenya is a democratic country. We will have a conversation. And when we get to that place where we make that decision, then we will implement it in whatever fashion that the law will provide at that point in time. Mushibi, sorry. Yeah. On what guarantees do we have to make sure that we are not transiting from this party and the parties are not democratic and that kind of thing? I am the biggest loser when it came to the collapse of Jubilee. I had invested, the same way I see that passion in you, I had invested a lot of emotion, a lot of effort in building the Jubilee Party. Unfortunately, we tried. The members of my team who are sitting here, who are members of Jubilee, know that I was the last person to accept that we move out of Jubilee. I was the last person. They are here, they are seated in this table. I was the last person. Everybody else had come to the conclusion that Jubilee cannot be saved. We have to get out because this Jubilee has been taken hostage by people who did not want us to have a platform to be able to prosecute the national agenda. And when there was no option, we left. But the flip side is that we ended up with a much more popular party than Jubilee. We ended up with people even who were not in Jubilee joining us. Some of them from other political parties, some of them even from ODM. We even have members of ODM who are sitting in this audience today who have joined us in UDA. So that's what it is. So I quite, the same way you sympathize with me, I also sympathize with you because I could see you are a great believer in that party.
We don't have any more time for questions from the audience. This is the Royal Institute of International Affairs, so there are two questions that I've got from Joel Keefe and also from Amitav. One is, if you're president, what's your position on the East African community? How are you going to get unity on it? And do you have a vision for common currency? And the second question was about what's going on in Ethiopia. How worried are you for Kenya? Those are the two questions.
I have participated as Deputy President on many fora discussing what we need to do about East Africa community. We moved it when we came into office We've moved it several steps. In fact, today, I think the intra-trade in East Africa is about either 18 or close to 20%, making it the most progressive trading bloc in the African continent. We have provided the leadership for that to happen, eliminated barriers, requirements for people can now cross borders in East Africa using IDs. Students learning in different countries can pay fees using local currency. I think we are making that progressive. We are admitting DRC into EAC as part of building the necessary network that would enable us to do more trade. And I believe that EAC presents an opportunity for not just Kenya, but for the international community to work in the East Africa arrangement and access opportunities from any of the countries into the East African region. I also see EAC as a building block to Africa Continental Free Trade Area. That space is very important because it gives us in the continent latitude to access and to persuade investors from the rest of the world that we have a mechanism that they don't have to do multiple things in every country. That operating from one country, you can have access to the entire African market. As to the issues going on in Ethiopia, I believe from a Kenyan perspective that we must work with Ethiopia towards a peaceful resolution of what's going on in Tigray. Ethiopia is so important to Kenya because if anything were to happen to Ethiopia, it would put a lot of pressure to Kenya because then we become the only country stable that can then, anchor that whole region. So Ethiopia is important to us. We have gone out of our way as a country to provide the mechanism for there to be a discussion, a dialogue, and possible a resolution of the issues in Ethiopia, so that together with Ethiopia, Kenya can begin to see how we can stabilize Somalia, complete the elections in Somalia, and make it possible for them to establish a government that we can work with so that we can form the structures of government. With Ethiopia, again, work on South Sudan to complete the peace discussion there so that we can also settle the government there, and also work with the Sudan so that we can transit from the military to a civilian authority, again to consolidate the whole of Africa and that region so that we can have a peaceful neighborhood.
Thank you very much. So first of all, first point, I want to apologize that we overran a bit. Your indulgence is much appreciated. We will overrun next week for the same amount. Secondly, you're of course all welcome to register for next week, so we'd be very happy to see you again. And also just to to tell you, in fact, the Deputy President mentioned the AFCTA. Well, we've got the Secretary General of the AFCTA speaking at Chatham House at the end of this month, so we also hope that you'll come back and listen to that. And finally, most importantly, if we can all thank His Excellency Dr. William Ruto for being with us today.